The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers. This is the TFfangeek coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful video review. Or not, actually it's not a review, it's a very special video. So I announced in my Christmas video yesterday that I have purchased so many incredible Transformers action figures this year that I decided to break it down into two separate lists. So this list is going to consist of all the Transformers action figures I purchased this year that didn't come out during the current year of 2024. They actually came out in years previously, so that's why the title of the video is a vintage / pre-2024 Transformers action figures. I just barely purchased enough that I was able to make the list. I actually purchased slightly more than what would make the list, but out of the handful of Transformers action figures I got this year for the first time in 2024 that were actually released in previous years, the ones that made the list are the ones that I'm the most happy to have in my Transformers collection. There's one honorable mention, and it's right over my shoulder. It is the Transformers Netflix Megatron figure back there. I got that to stand opposite one of the Optimus Prime figures I have in my Transformers collection, because I've gotten into this habit recently of wanting to have my Optimus Prime and Megatron action figures standing opposite each other and not be standalone Optimus Prime or Megatron figures. I don't know if I'm going to get out of that mindset at sooner or later, but for now at least I'm enjoying playing it. So without further delay, let's get on to the countdown. Here are my top 10 pre-2024 Transformers action figures that I purchased in 2024 for the first time. So, thanks to the internet, I was able to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Transformers by getting all these Transformers action figures that have been out for a while. So, starting things off at number 10, we have the Transformers Generation Selects Titan Class Guardian Robot, or as some Transformers fans and collectors refer to this figure as, Omega Sentinel. And, yes, so this is the white and blue repaint of Siege Omega Supreme, and, if you have the money, the time, and the shelf space to buy more than one copy of this Transformers figure, then technically this right here, the Titan Class Guardian Robot, holds the title of being the physically largest army-building Transformers action figure ever released to date. I have no plans on army-building this figure. Army-building Titans is just something that is way out of my budget and way out of my shelving space, so I guess that's why I only got one copy. In the past, the Guardian robots have also been referred to by, one of them at least, has been singled out and referred to the name of Omega Sentinel. In Transformers Energon, the Energon version of Omega Supreme was repainted into a Guardian robot, but since Hasbro didn't have a registered trademark to it, he was known as Omega Sentinel, and was fleshed out as being Omega Supreme's brother, so that's what I'm going to use the Guardian robot for, is Omega Sentinel. Oh, and some of these figures I still have in the boxes because I haven't gotten around to reviewing them yet. I will eventually take the ones that are still in their boxes. I will eventually take out including the Netflix Megatron. I'm just deciding how and when to review these, or if I will review some of them. But which Transformers action figures made the list partially depends on the amount I paid for them, how much I wanted to have them in my collection, and also just overall how much enjoyment I know I'll get out of having these Transformers figures. So if some of them seem like they were higher up on the list than others, it's just because it's my own personal opinion, and also I didn't have much in terms of organization with deciding which of these I liked more than others, because when it comes to Transformers action figures, I like all of them in their own way, in some special need, and so it's Transformers action figures that I don't like, I tend not to get, and I tend not to add to my collection because I try to avoid them, so I can have the shelving space and spend my money on the ones that I do want. So that's why Omega Sentinel only made number 10 on this top 10 list. It's the vintage pre-2024 Transformers action figures, because of how much money I had to spend getting him since he's a Titan class figure. Same holds true for number 9. Number 9 on this top 10 list is the Transformers Legacy Year 1 Titan Class Cybertron Metroplex. I originally passed on this figure when he came out back in 2022, but then 2 years later, I was looking around Amazon, looking at which Transformers action figures I didn't have in my collection, and I noticed this guy was the one Transformers Legacy figure that I didn't have yet. at earlier this year at the time of the ones that had been released, so I decided to get that. I also got, I apologize for not grabbing it before I started recording the video, but if I just reach back here I can get it, along with Metroplex himself. I also got this thing right here. This is DNA Design's upgrade kit for Cybertron Metroplex, which contains his Minicom partner from the Cybertron series drill bit, along with some new, more articulated hands and some gap fillers, and then an extension piece for the buzzsaw axe. So yeah, that was a really nice addition to add on to Metroplex there, and I'm including that with Metroplex's spot that was not number 8, as I accidentally bumped my camera. Number 8 on the list is a Transformers figure that I got quite recently, and it's one that I'm proud to have because it's an action figure of a Transformers character that I didn't have in my Transformers collection before getting it, and it is this one right here. This is the Transformers 2010 Hunt for the Decepticons Banzai-tron. Banzai-tron is based on one of the Transformers Generation 1 Pretenders, similar to Bludgeon, which this figure is a direct repaint of the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Bludgeon figure that was released in 2009. And Banzai-tron, similar to Bludgeon, he had a samurai motif, and so he was basically a samurai action master. So back in 2009 and 2010, after designing this mold for Bludgeon, it made sense for Hasbro to repaint it into Banzai-tron, since he was another Decepticon samurai. So for those of you wondering if Bludgeon was unique in being a Decepticon with a samurai motif in robot mode, surprisingly he is not. At least one other Decepticon samurai that exists is Banzai-tron, so he was a great addition there. At number 7 is Evan is a Transformers action figure that I have quite a bit of attachment to, because it was technically the last Transformers action figure from its line that I needed to complete my collection, and is none other than this guy, Transformers Armada Overload. So yeah, Overload was the last character from the original Armada line that I needed to have in my Transformers collection to have an action figure of every character from the Armada series, and so I'm just really thrilled to finally have Overload here and have my original Transformers Armada collection completed. It took 21 years since Transformers Armada ended back in 2003, but it was worth the wait to finally have Overload here. He is complete. I got him used, so he didn't come in the box. So he does have all of his accessory pieces. He's got the 2 missiles that end up hanging off the heels of his feet due to how the reason why the missiles end up down there is because of how he transforms into a weapons backpack for the Armada version of Optimus Prime. And the other accessory piece is his Minicon rollout, which serves as his headmaster. And for those of you wondering why why his robot mode looks somewhat similar, it's because he's based off of Generation 1 Ultra Magnus, but Hasbro didn't have a registered trademark to Ultra Magnus during the Armada line, so they decided to slap the name Overload on him and make him an entirely different character. So we could technically, if Hasbro wanted to, they could technically just repaint one of the existing Ultra Magnus action figures that's out there into Armada Overload and just call it a day without him having the ability to combine with the Armada Optimus Prime figure that was released in the Legacy Evolution line. Whether or not we'll get a modern-day action figure of Armada Overload is uncertain at this point, but slowly but surely we've been getting action figures of quite a few characters from Armada in the Unicron trilogy, so time will tell if that happens. But yeah, Armada Overload made number 7 on the list. At number 6 is actually kind of a cheat because it's 2 Transformers action figures, but I bought them at virtually the same time, and I bought them to interact with each other. And at number 6, it is the Transformers VNR Volvo Optimus Prime, along with the Transformers Siege 35th Anniversary Megatron figure. So yeah, I got this duo just to have another set of Optimus Prime and Megatron in my Transformers collection. I got the VNR Optimus Prime because I figured he was a pretty nice looking Transformers action figure, considering that his alternate mode is an actual real-life model of a semi-tractor cab. So he's, out of all the Optimus Prime figures I've gotten in recent years, he's the one that's come the closest to being a robot in disguise, and there wasn't a Megatron figure that was released to stand opposite of him, so I looked around at Megatron figures that I didn't have in my collection, and I noticed the 35th anniversary version of Megatron that was released exclusively at Walmart with the very bright gray paint job designed to match his appearance in the G1 cartoon. I figured that would be a decent Megatron action figure to be rivals with the VNR Optimus Prime figures. So both those figures together take number 6 on my list of top 10 Transformers action figures. Let's see, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Yeah, I was just making sure that I hadn't lost track of count. So we're at the top 5, halfway there, and at number 5 we have a Transformers action figure that I was amazed to find at what I felt was a decent price for it. This figure was bought to be a replacement figure because the Transformers action figure it's replacing, I kind of broke it in a way that required buying a replacement action figure. So here at number 5 is the Transformers Takara exclusive Transformers Legends LG Ultra Magnus. So this figure is the Japanese version of Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus that Hasbro released here in the US in 2015. I believe Legends Ultra Magnus came out the following year in 2016. I could be incorrect. It could have come out the same year, but the point is, the main reason I got this version of Ultra Magnus is because I did get the original Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus back when he was released back in 2015, and one day I decided I didn't like the fact that on the Combiner Wars version of Ultra Magnus, the Hasbro version, the tires were not painted. They are painted here on Takara's Legends Ultra Magnus action figure, and so I decided to custom paint them silver on the Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus because I visually enjoy seeing Transformers action figures have hubcaps and tires on their wheels instead of unpainted black wheels. And so I actually took the wheels off Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus, and in the process of doing that I snapped the pegs that were holding the wheels in place. I've tried to repair them as best I can, but the wheels still tend to either fall off, or if the way I've tried to fix them is they don't tend to spin as well as they used to. So technically my Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus, he's not as broken as he was the day I accidentally broke him for the first time, but I still wanted to buy a replacement copy, and I was amazed a few months ago when I got this figure off of Amazon that he was going for a slightly cheaper price than the actual Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus figure. So I figured better paint jobs. It's yet another unique version of Ultra Magnus I didn't have before, so I figured why not go for it. One of the most prominent distinctions between Takara's Legends Ultra Magnus figure and Hasbro's Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus is the tiny little partner robots that they come packaged with. Hasbro's Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus came with a character from IDW's comic books named Minimus Ambus. He's almost entirely white, and he's it's based on the fact that in IDW's comic books, it was revealed that the original Ultra Magnus died at the beginning of the Transformers War, and that a group of tiny Autobots, recognizing the importance of Ultra Magnus to the other Autobots fighting the Decepticons, that they keep the motif of Ultra Magnus alive, and so Ultra Magnus's lifeless body was converted into a mech suit, and robot after robot has been impersonating Ultra Magnus to show that, and just to try and keep up the illusion that he survived the war since the beginning, even though he actually didn't. And Minimus Ambus was the most recent Autobot to don Ultra Magnus's lifeless body and pretend to be him. So Ultra Magnus basically was a heroic version of the Dread Pirate Roberts, and I don't care what people say. I think The Princess Bride is a worthwhile watching movie, on a side note, but yeah, that was one of the jaw-dropping moments of IDW's comic books. It's one that wasn't too well received, the idea of Ultra Magnus being a lifeless mech tech suit for smaller Autobots to pilot, especially amongst older G1 Transformers fans who are fans of Ultra Magnus. But Takara Tomy decided, instead of Minimus Ambus, they decided to repaint the inner robot figure and made it Alpha Trion to show that Alpha Trion's actually been the one controlling Ultra Magnus's lifeless body. It was basically, because this was released in 2016, this, I believe, became the first mass retail Alpha Trion figure that was actually capable of transforming in Japan. I could be mistaken about that. But yeah, when you learn the history behind this particular Ultra Magnus action figure, then it actually becomes one of the more unique Ultra Magnus action figures here, so that made top 5 on my list. Now, the figures that made top 4 were really hard for me to organize and decide which would be number 1, which would be the top 3 and make the podium for my top 10 vintage Transformers action figures. But considering all the factors, such as the amount I paid, the rarity of these figures, how difficult they are to find, mind regardless of condition, if they're brand new or used. They're all pretty distinct Transformers action figures, but it was very difficult for me to organize them into my top 3 Transformers action figures. But also some of the factors I take in consideration are how difficult the transformation is for these figures, and overall how much enjoyment I get out of having them here. But the Transformers action figures that made numbers 1 and 2 actually were easier for me to find. So the ones that made number 3 and 4 were actually surprisingly the most difficult. It was very hard for me to decide which of these I enjoyed having more in my Transformers collection, but one of them I've been wanting for years, a lot longer than the other one, so as painful as it is, I have to be honest with myself. And so at number 4 is quite possibly the rarest Transformers action figure I've added to my collection this year, and that's because this figure was not sold at mass retail. It was sold as an exclusive, but it wasn't sold exclusively through Hasbro's website, Hasbro Pulse. It was sold exclusively at the official Transformers convention, BotCon, and it is none other than this guy. This is the Transformers BotCon 2010 and Autobot Spark, aka Autobot Pyro action figure. So yeah, this is, I believe this was limited to 1,500 copies at BotCon 2010. It could have been less than that. So yeah, Pyro has probably become the rarest Transformers action figure I have in my Transformers collection. According to the Transformers Wikipedia, in terms of the amount of paint job that a Transformers action figure has been given, Pyro holds the title of being one of having the most amount of paint compared to most other Transformers action figures here. I believe all of the parts of him on the back here that follow the yellow caution or tiger stripe pattern, that's all paint. I believe all the parts on Pyro that are yellow are painted. There's no yellow plastic found on him. Most of the plastic found on this action figure is the bright reddish pink that's used here for the front half of his fire truck mode. But I was thrilled when I found him for what I felt was a decent price to get it, considering how rare of a figure it is. He didn't come with the original missile. The missile that he came with when he was sold at BotCon was painted red to show that his cannon was a flamethrower. I got the missile that came with the original version of this mold, which was the Transformers Universe Classics 25th Anniversary Inferno action figure. I don't have that figure in my Transformers collection, but I'm happy that I was able to get the mold as Pyro. I wrote because so far for the overall Transformers Generations line, for the characters released at the tail end of Generation 1 and during Transformers Generation 2, Pyro is one of those Transformers characters that Hasbro and Takara Tomy have currently made no announcements or have no plans whatsoever on releasing a modern-day action figure of him. So I figured the BotCon on figure, when I found it, I figured that was going to be my only chance at having an action figure of Pyro in my Transformers collection. I prefer his G2 name of Pyro more than the name Hasbro gave him in the G1 comic books of Autobot Spark. Alright, for some reason the name Pyro, it just sounds more commanding to me. And with his paint job of being mostly red, but then having blue hands, feet, and a blue helmet when he's in robot mode, I've always imagined Pyro as being Autobot doppelganger to Optimus Prime, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get an action figure of him in my collection. But yeah, so the reason why, so as great and rare a figure as he is, the reason why Pyro only made number 4 on the list is because the top 3 figures, 2 of them I wanted a lot more than I did Pyro, and the third one was given to me as a surprise present, and it's also an extremely rare Transformers action figure, almost as rare as Pyro is. So at number 3 is one of the vintage Transformers action figures that I was arguably most excited to add to my collection because I've been wanting this action figure since it came out, and I was finally able to get it this year in 2024. And at number 3 is Transformers Prime Breakdown. So yes, I was finally able to add Breakdown to my Transformers collection, and yeah, I am just thrilled that I no longer have to wonder about the day when I'll finally, if or when I'll be able to add him to my collection, because he's finally here. I originally got the Autobot Swerve version of this mold, which is done in red plastic instead of blue. So yeah, it was really thrilling to finally add Breakdown to my collection. What motivated me to get Breakdown in my collection was the Transformers Legacy United version of Prime Breakdown that was released, and so I figured I'd get the original Breakdown figure here and add it to my collection. So yeah, I'm really thrilled I was able to get this. Breakdown was released by Hasbro exclusively through Hasbro Pulse back in 2022 for the 10th anniversary of the Transformers Prime line. He was released in a 2-pack with the Viacon Jet. There's been quite a bit of speculation as to why this figure originally wasn't released by Hasbro during the days of Transformers Prime back in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013. Apparently, one of the main reasons was safety standards. Some of the parts on Breakdown were deemed didn't meet the safety requirements for distribution here in the United States. One reason I read of why Breakdown wasn't released in the States is because in robot mode he was too short and wasn't large enough to be marketed as a Voyager class Transformers action figure. Regardless of that, he's finally here in my collection, and I'm really thrilled for that. So yeah, Breakdown took the number 3 spot. The figures that made numbers 1 and 2, which ones made number 1 and 2, even though I said it was a no-brainer putting them both in the top 2 spots, which ones made number 2 and made number 1 were quite difficult for me to work out, but number 2 is one that I actually got as a surprise gift from a very dear friend of mine, so shout out to you, Ultra Megatronus, for sending me this. Number 2 on my list of top 10 vintage Transformers figures for 2024 is the Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee Deluxe Class Fangry. So yes, I was originally going to try and get this figure online, and when I told my friend Ultra Megatronus that how much Fangry was going for, he had a copy of this figure in his collection, and he had no emotional attachment, and he had no interest in keeping the figure, so he decided to send it to me as a surprise gift. So yeah, thank you so much once again, Ultra Magnus, for that. I've already reviewed Fangry on my channel, and did a thank you video to Ultra Megatronus, so yeah, I'm really thrilled to have Fangry in my Transformers collection. One thing to note is that even though Fangry is mold mates with the Titans Return Twinferno, aka Double Cross action figure, this is actually how he originally came in the Buzzworthy line when he was released back in 2021 during Transformers Kingdom. I actually found a spare copy of I found online a spare copy of the laser gun cannons that the original Twinferno Titans Return Twinferno version of the mold came with, so I decided to get it to give Fangry some additional weapons. So I think so at least the some of the retooled parts that are let me rephrase that. My mind's moving faster than my tongue, that's why I stutter on my words, or I mess up, or I repeat myself. But one of the parts that's not retooled on Fangry is the back of his alternate mode, or beast mode. It is the same as it is on Twinferno, so the same weapons can be stored on his back. Actually, that's really nice. But yeah, Fangry, he's arguably one of the rarest Buzzworthy Bumblebee Transformers action figures that's available out there. And I told my friend Ultra Megatronus one of the reasons why I wanted to get Fangry and add him to my Transformers collection is because he's a trio of Decepticons from the Generation 1 line that formed a team. They were known as the Headmaster Juniors. They were Decepticon Headmasters that were only half the size of the original Decepticon Headmasters, and unlike the original Decepticon Headmasters, the Headmaster Juniors transformed into monstrous creatures instead of just being robotic versions of real-life animals. Fangry's supposed to be a mashup of a wolf and a bat. And the Headmaster Juniors, in one way or another, live up to their names. Loosely reflect the type of beasts that they transform into. You know, Fangry being both a wolf and a bat. Wolves and bats use fangs and sharp teeth to bite down into whatever they eat. One of his other fellow Decepticon Headmaster Juniors was given a figure in the Transformers Legacy United line in 2024, Squeeze Play. Squeeze Play, I believe, is supposed to be a mashup of a snake and a crab. And so his name Squeeze Play is based on the fact that crabs and snakes, non-venomous snakes anyway, that they squeeze, ease their prey before they devour it. Alright, so with Fangry's release in the Buzzworthy line back in 2021, and now Squeeze Play's release in Legacy United, 2 of the 3 Decepticon Headmaster Juniors have finally been given modern-day Transformers action figures. The only one left is the third and final Decepticon Headmaster Junior named Horrible. Horrible is a mashup of a bull and a crocodile. And some Transformers collectors have customized copies of Titans Return Skull Cruncher into action figures of Horrible, so hopefully we won't have to wait 3 years for Horrible to get a modern day action figure like we did 3 years between the release of Fangry and Squeeze Play. And I'm really hoping that Horrible gets released the same, at least in the same way that Fangry and Squeeze Play did. It and being released in a 4-pack that's released exclusively at Target stores. It was announced at the start of this year in 2024 that the Buzzworthy line was ending. The deal that Hasbro and Target had worked out was they would continue to sell exclusive 4-packs at Target stores, but not under the Buzzworthy banner, because apparently the Buzzworthy Bumblebee line had been declining in sales during 2022, and 2023 was even worse. So the Buzzworthy line ended, and now the Transformers action figures being released under the exclusively at Target stores will now be sold under the main line of the current year. And my computer just told me that the battery's running low, so to hurry and wrap things up before the battery dies, we will finally get to number 1 of my top 10 vintage Transformers action figures for 2024. And the reason why this one surpassed Fangry, even though I got him as a gift, is because this was the out of all these Transformers action figures here, this one was arguably released the earliest. It might have been released before. I can't remember if it was released before or after Armada Overload. But I was even more excited than Fangry to add this Transformers figure to my collection, because it's a character that I've been wanting for ages, and it is none other than, from Transformers Armada, Unicron. So yes, the Chaos Bringer is finally here. I was able to get a copy of Unicron and add him to my Transformers collection. I'm going to review him very soon, because I looked at my channel recently, and I'm currently at, this will be my, this video will be my 664th Transformers video, and I wanted to save Armada Unicron for my 666th video review. I'll explain why that is when I get around to reviewing Unicron. Some of you have probably figured it out already. But yeah, this is the, out of all the vintage Transformers action figures here, this is one that I was the most excited to get, because I honestly never thought I was going to get Unicron and add him to my Transformers collection. So, action end. He's fully intact. All his parts are there. There's no paint chipping, and there's no scraping or scratch marks on him. He has his Minicon partner Dead End and all his missiles and accessory pieces, and yeah, I'm just really thrilled to have that here. So this has been my top 10 vintage Transformers action figures of 2024. I will do a countdown video of the Transformers action figures that were released this year in 2024. So keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping I'll be able to do it next week during New Year's Eve or possibly New Year's Day. Welcome the new year of 2025 in with that video. So thank you guys all so much, and until next time, you guys, this has been the TFfangeek, and please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, transform, and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.